A few days ago, five European governments said that the Kremlin turned to poison from a dart frog to kill prominent Putin critic and opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who had been imprisoned in a penal colony in Siberia. That was nearly exactly 2 years ago today, on February 26th of 2024. Now, of course, Russia has denied this, as they have denied so much in the past. They just claimed that Navalny had gone out on a walk and that he just randomly collapsed. And this was so strange because his mother told Russian media that he had looked, quote unquote, healthy and happy just days before he died. So I turned to Dan Kaszeta. He is an expert on biological and chemical weapons, has spent 3 decades in the field. And I had previously spoken with him back in 2021 after Navalny was poisoned with Soviet era nerve agent novichok. About how Navalny was recovering and what it would be like to use this variant on him. So, what he told me is that scientists have explored the use of this particular toxin secreted by the dart frog and how, at low doses, it can be used as a painkiller that is stronger than morphine. But that really there is a narrow range of when it becomes a painkiller to when it becomes fatal. And he also talked about a certain Russian institute, which previously made Novichok, that had written about synthesizing this compound. And the institute is called the State Scientific Research Institute for Organic Chemistry and Technology. It has been around for decades, and according to a EU document, it had not only been involved in the development of Novichok during the Soviet Union era as part of their chemical weapons program, but that this institute also took part in Russia's destruction of its chemical weapons after 1994, weapons that it had inherited from the Soviet Union. Let's go back in time for a minute to an article from 2017. Ironically, this is from Radio Free Europe, which has struggled for funding because of changes by the Trump administration. But let me just read to you what they reported at the time. Today, the last chemical ammunition from Russian chemical weapons stockpiles will be destroyed, Putin said during a video link with Russia's last remaining chemical weapons storage facility in Erdmusha region. Probably saying that wrong. He called it a historic event, given the huge size of chemical weapons arsenals left to us since Soviet times, which specialists believe could have destroyed every living thing on Earth several times over. He also was quoted saying, "We expect that Russia's efforts will serve as an example for other countries." Former KGB officer telling you the truth. Of course, he also used this moment to say that the United States is unfortunately not carrying out its obligations. Taking us to this moment in time, of course, we know that Russia has used chemical weapons on people that it doesn't really like too much. Documents on this exact research institute show that it is owned by Russia's Ministry of Defense, and it has already come under sanctions internationally, including by the United States, by the UK, Belgium, France, and other countries. Now, according to the documentation, its current director is a 69-year-old man named Alexander Valerievich Kutkin, who is not currently designated by anybody. But let's also go back in time to 2020 now. Remember that Bellingcat conducted an incredible investigation with partners on the poisoning of Navalny, because in that Novichok poisoning attempt, he collapsed. We have video of him just moaning in pain while he was taking a plane from a Siberian city back to Moscow. The plane stopped and he was receiving treatment in Germany before he returned to Russia, where he knew he was going to be imprisoned. And what Bellingcat found was that there is this secret unit inside the FSB, Russia's domestic intelligence service, and that it was conducting these secret biological weapons trailings and administerings of poison to its enemies. That this was a particular group that went after Navalny. It is called Unit 34435. There's a London-based intelligence firm called Gray Dynamics that says, quote, registries show that the unit is also ordering a significant number of live animals for test purposes. This was in years past. This is just to show that these intelligence operatives have engaged in this behavior and targeted Navalny in the past. Now, Dan told me that it would be quite simple. Just take that toxin, stick it in a jar, put it in a vial, and then bring it to this Siberian penal colony, which has the nickname Polar Wolf, one of the harshest federal penitentiaries that Russia has. And why do I bring this up? Remember Litvinenko, the ex-FSB officer who died of polonium-210, a radioactive isotope in London, and the transfer, the danger, the pass of material that goes forward that leaves traces with something like that. Now, Dan also brought up an interesting point. Quote, there's clearly some story about how the body tissues got out. We're talking about Navalny now, and got into the hands of Western intelligence services. Also, the Russians could have just cremated the remains or buried him in the middle of nowhere in Siberia. So this raises the question of Putin wanting over time the real reason to get out. And of course, that reason would be, don't mess with us. We will come after you. This is a message to Putin's critics, to anybody who tries to get in his way. Now, keep in mind that in the early days of Navalny's death, there were questions of where his body was. For years, the Navalny team had wanted to test it, had wanted to uncover what had happened. Dan also said that the Russians will no doubt use this press release by the European governments as evidence that Navalny's wife, Yulia, was working with Western intelligence services. So it really may just be a matter of time till we see charges filed against her. She could end up in her own penal colony. Now, I have more that I spoke with about Dan, or rather to Dan, about this toxin and the weapons program. All of that is going to be available to my paid subscribers because that is how I can continue doing this work. So if you want to see it, then you're just going to have to become a paid subscriber. And I'll just keep sharing my reporting with you. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.